Going. Now look.
Hi everybody, and welcome to my very first Q&A questions about CMV, me and blindness. And I'm not sure how many people we've got on the channel yet, because so we've only just fired up. Okay, I've got Ryan in the background. He will be reading out the message because obviously I can't read them on the computer screen. So any messages that come through, Ryan will read them out for me.
Yep.
So where do we start? About visual impairment. Okay, well, I was born blind. I had a lot better sight than I've got now. Now I've pretty much got nothing, light and dark, and that's pretty much it. CMV. What is CMV? CMV is a virus that 80% of the world's population carry. But on odd occasions, there are people that this virus hasn't infected, that it comes across, and unfortunately, they happen to be pregnant, and they happen to be carrying babies that get infected by this horrible virus. Now, I was, no one even knew that I had anything wrong with me at the time. Now, my mum was taken into hospital because she had preeclampsia. I don't know a lot about preeclampsia, so I can't really tell you anything about that. But what happened was, is she was taken into hospital. She was given a barrage of drugs to try and stop the preeclampsia. And when I spoke with specialists back in the early 80s, I was born in the early 70s, they turned around and said it was probably the drugs that they gave my mum at the time to stop the CMV. It stopped it in its tracks, which is thankful. How far it spread to me, I honestly don't know. I do, obviously, I'm pretty much totally blind now, and I was told at the time that I would never lose my sight would never change. But then I have spoken to specialists, and they have turned around to me and they have said to me that my sight would change because now they know that the scarring on the back of the retina, because that's where the virus started, on the back of my retinas, and my right eye was my worst at the time, and now they're both the same. The virus started on the back of the retina and grew onto the retina and obviously scarred it, and then as obviously I was developing in the womb, and then it moved on onto the optic nerve. Now they know the optic nerve is damaged, but they don't know how far it traveled down the optic nerve, if at all, into my brain. I do suffer with severe mental illness. In the case of, I have learning difficulties. I found it very, very hard when I was at school, to concentrate, to pick up anything new that was thrown at me. I didn't take very well to situations that were beyond my control, and I still don't, to be fair. I find with things that annoy me or anything like that, I have to walk away. That's one thing I have learned in old age. I say old age, I am old. I have found that things, I have to walk away from them. And the reason being is if I don't, I'll explode, and I will literally explode. So I have to walk away from any situation that starts to wind me up. And I think that's my coping mechanism with things I can't get on with, or even people. I don't want this to sound horrible, but I'm very cold. If I don't get on with someone, I'll shut them out straight away. I'll just walk away and leave them behind. And that sounds cruel and horrible, but sometimes you have to do that because some people you're not going to get on with in life, unfortunately. But then I obviously went to a school. I went to a normal school to start with, to be fair. And then they suddenly worked out, well, my mum knew there was something wrong literally as I was born. My mum looked in my eyes and went, there's something wrong. Pediatricians looked and went, that's nothing wrong. But at 2 years old, my mum saw me groveling around with my hands, using my hands to find things rather than looking for them. So she took me back to the doctors, who then referred me to a hospital. I think it's, now where was it? Stoke Mandeville. I went to Stoke Mandeville, and they then turned around and confirmed that there was definitely something wrong. But it took 3 years to work out that it was CMV. And I spent a lot of time in the clinic in Milton Keynes. That's where I was born. Well, I was born in Aylesbury, but I lived in Milton Keynes. And they then found out that I had, every Wednesday afternoon, I remember it's clear as day, they never started testing me until, well, they knew something was wrong, but they never started testing me until I was about 4. and it took till I was 6 to find out there was actually CMV. So I don't know if there was a great deal known about it and how it affected people, but I had barrages of blood tests, I had x-rays, I had scans, and they finally come up with that it was CMV. But even then it was questioned. Back in the 84, 85, I went to see another specialist who said he didn't think it was actually CMV without more tests. So then I went off to Moorfields in London. They did lots and lots of tests, and they then turned around and said, no, it's definitely CMV. Cyclomegalovirus is what its real name is. Hopefully I've said that right. And yeah, it was an interesting journey that I actually went through, because obviously I used to wear glasses, and I could see fairly well. I could actually see fairly well as a child to ride around on a bike, just about. And then in the last 20 years, my eyes has really, really deteriorated to the point now it's just light and dark. I did have cataracts at 40 years old, and they removed the cataracts, which was 9 years ago. And when they removed the cataracts, this was interesting. I went back to the hospital because I actually thought that the cataracts were that bad. They were making my eyesight, blurry and everything else, and it wasn't. I say that was 9 years ago. And if you go back onto my story at the very beginning of the YouTube channel, you'll actually see me discussing about it. But if you want to know more, anything about gadgets, how I cope, mentally, visually, please don't hesitate to ask. And if you are watching this not on live, but if you're watching this sort of like a little bit later, I'm going to do some more lives as well. And I'm going to try now. We've actually got the channel up and running, because what happened was we was going to go live Saturday, which I said to everybody was going live Saturday. The problem we have is YouTube, because it's such a new channel, said that we had to wait 48 hours to go live. But here we are, we're live. So I'm going to try and do them every Saturday afternoon for a while and see how they go. And if they don't take off, then fair play, not a problem. Have we got any questions, Ryan?
Yep, one coming through is, how does blindness impact you on a daily basis?
That's quite a hard one to answer. On a daily basis, it's really quite hard, because everything is a challenge, but then you learn that challenge has to be overcome. Obviously, I have a lot of support around me. I have people that help me out and support me. That's right. Help me with different items, liquid level indicators, which we have. I'm going to be doing a review on liquid level indicators. Now, what they are really briefly is you basically put them in a cup. So when you pour boiling water into a cup, you don't pour it over your hand, because some vision impaired people, it's going to sound really bad now, use their finger. So when the hot water touches their finger, then they know that they're at the right height on the cup. Excuse me. Well, I've got some liquid level indicators, 3 different ones, and we're going to try them out and see what they're like, and see which one I prefer to use. There are a number of gadgets that are out there for visually impaired people. Talking tape measure, which I did a review on, not a very well review, so I do apologize about that. I hadn't used a talking tape measure for about 4 years, because I found as I've got older and my sight's got worse, I've done less and less in the garden, building things and stuff like that. Because before I would build anything, I'd put fences up and do anything, but now I find it very hard to do just menial things in the garden. And you have to ensure that when you're walking around your house, everything is in its rightful place, so you know where it is. So I have an extremely good memory for memorizing where things have been, where I put them. But of course, obviously, I live with 2 other people, so things do get moved around. So that can be really frustrating, because you go back to where you thought that item was, because you'd left it there and it's gone. So that can be quite frustrating, but it's one of those things you have to deal with. Clothing, people don't think about clothing. I don't know if you can hear an alarm going off in the background. Do apologize. I've got a thermometer. Thermometer. I will do a review on that. And the only problem is, because we're literally at 0 degrees, it's got an alarm on it. So as the temperature goes below freezing, it tells me, and it keeps bleeping. So I'm not sure if that's coming across, but if it is, I do apologize. But yeah, items in the home and clothing and stuff like that, that's a big hard question, because you have to ensure that your clothing's clean and stuff like that. Because trust me, as a blind person, you end up throwing a lot of your food over yourself. drinks as well. You end up throwing drinks over yourself and stuff like that. So you have to ensure that, you know, clothing is clean and such forth when you're going out. So there's another thing. Any more questions?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Cool. No problem. So yeah. So what you have to do is when it comes to doing menial tasks around the house, you have to ensure that the furniture is in a place where you know where it is, and using hoovers and stuff like that. Buy a pretty robust hoover, because obviously you're going to not smash it, but you're going to bang it into furniture and such forth. And so you need a pretty robust hoover. Do seem to go through quite a few hoovers. I did have a retired guide dog, Betsy. She was my guide dog for about 8 years. But the problem with Betsy was she just didn't want to be a guide dog anymore. She'd had enough. She's still with us. She decided that her life was better with her paws in the air, snoozing. So that was Betsy's downfall, is that she used to walk me into things. But she did come a cropper. I've told this story quite a few times, but I will tell you the story. What happened to Betsy is one day we moved up to Northumberland from Milton Keynes, and that's where we are now. And we was in a place called Morpeth, and I was walking through Morpeth with Betsy, and it was quite towards near the end of her retirement. And what happened is Morpeth is an old town, very old town, and it's got lots of lovely doorways that stick out onto the pavement. So you have to sort of swing out a bit and then walk along the pavement and then go, you know, she likes to hug the building. I suppose they say it's a sign of insecurity. But she's one of these dogs that not a lot phases her. Seriously, not a lot phases Betsy. So I don't know what it was. I think, to be honest, it was Betsy just rooting for food. She's extremely food orientated and loves food. Absolutely loves food, especially pushchairs. She seems to like putting her nose into pushchairs and seeing if babies have dropped any food or anything like that, which can be quite embarrassing at times. But this particular day, we was walking through Morpeth High Street, and Betsy was not paying any attention, and I mean none. Now, this is a little bit of karma for Betsy, not me, because Betsy over the years has walked me into goodness knows what. I don't know how many things she's walked me into. Bins are the best ones, but the bins are okay because they're not solid. The wheelie bins, they end up flying all over the place. So they're quite okay to walk into. Lampposts are not quite so forgiving. Parking meters, park benches. Now, park benches were interesting because they're at the height of your shin. So as you suddenly then stumble over a park bench, yeah, your shin rubs up it, and that can be pretty sore. So we was walking along this street, and Betsy was not paying any attention. And I mean, I don't even know where she was. She'd zoned right out, and all of a sudden, this doorway was coming up. Now, obviously, I couldn't see it, but Betsy should have done, and she didn't. And she walked smack bang nose into it, and she jumped back. Didn't yelp, didn't hurt her, but she walked straight into this. It's like a stone pillar sticking out, and she jumped back, and she gave it the most filthiest look you could imagine, looking at it, going, "What the?" And of course, I stopped really quickly because obviously I didn't know what was going on. So all of a sudden, poor old Betsy, she jumped. And she looked at it and then gave me the most filthiest look, people were telling me, saying I made her walk into it. But you know what? It didn't make Betsy concentrate anymore. She did not concentrate anymore whatsoever. And my wife has got a guide, well, did have a guide dog, Avis. Unfortunately, had to be put down last year. And the problem with Avis was he was such a good dog, and I expected Betsy to be like him. He was such a good worker. And the problem with Avis was that Betsy used to like following him. So if he went round a corner about 15 feet in front of me with Sarah, then all of a sudden, yeah, my friend Betsy would follow as well. And it didn't matter what was in the way, whether there was a bin, post, bench, anything. Betsy would walk me straight into it to cut the corner. And that was one of her favourite tricks. And she did that in Milton Keynes. If anybody's ever been to Milton Keynes in the city centre, where all the main shops are, they actually got like big, well, they're marble places where you can sit and, you know, and just chill out inside the building. And of course, Betsy would cut the corner and walk my right shin straight over the top of that every single time. So that was quite painful at times. So I've got quite a few scars on my shins for that. Bless her. So that's Betsy. She's retired. She's still with us. She's still enjoying life. She doesn't go out nowhere near as much as she used to now because her old back legs are getting a bit stiff. So rather than take her out and literally she can't walk for a week, you know, and punish her, She just makes do with the garden now and gets around. She's 11. She'll be coming up 12 this year, so she's doing quite well. So that's a story of me and Betsy.
There's a question here that says, how do you deal with the outside world?
Well, now life's really, really changed because obviously, excuse me, let's have a quick swig of water. The thing is with Betsy, obviously Betsy's retired now, and I have possibly the worst sense of direction you can ever imagine. Seriously, I get lost getting out of bed. In fact, I turn over and get lost. Turn over in bed and I get lost. Seriously, I'm not joking. I am terrible. For some reason, I don't know what it is, I cannot retain information that lets me know where I am. Where I'm living now, I've just about worked out, and I've been here 6 years now. I've just about worked out where the doctor's surgery is, and worked out where the co-op is, and places like that. So I'm sort of like finding my way around. But I rely seriously heavy on other people to help me get around, because if I didn't, I would get lost. Seriously, I would really, honestly and truly get lost. I've got no sense of direction. So at the moment, I rely on Ryan. Excuse me. I rely on Ryan, but obviously Ryan is moving to the Philippines, all being well, later on this year. So where we're going to go from there, I don't know. We'll work it out. Always did. Ryan, obviously Ryan's not always been there. He's been at school and things like that, but obviously now he's married and he's moving out to the Philippines. But we'll work it out. I'm going to have to possibly get in contact with someone and do some cane training around the local area, but that's going to be entertaining because I will get lost. I have been trained with a white stick and using that outside, but of course it's been a long time since I've last used a white stick, so I certainly do need a refresher course. And this is an interesting one. Going back to the guide dog scenario. When Betsy retired, I actually had someone come out to me and was interviewing me, not regarding getting another guide dog, but they were interviewing me, about Betsy and what we're going to do. Because you can, if you want, when you retire a guide dog, if you live alone, you can actually let the dog go to another house. And what they do is they then rehome the dog with someone else. And I can see situations where people will have to do that, because obviously if they're living alone and they're working, they're obviously going out all day, so they'll be leaving that dog on their own. So I can appreciate it. But my attitude is, while I'm at home throughout the day, then I'll obviously keep the dog with me, because I think it's nice. She's given you all these years of her life helping. Well, not so much Betsy, but her life helping you out and being there for you. So I've basically we've kept Betsy. Now the other thing is, when the guide dogs actually came out to me and sat down and were talking to me about Betsy, and they asked about my sight acuity and how good or how bad it was, and I explained to them, and they actually turned around to me and said, now this is a bit strange, and I find this hard to get my head around. They turned around to me and said to me, don't bother trying to go for another guide dog, your sight is too bad. Okay, well then my attitude is, what is a guide dog for? Well, I think a guide dog is for guiding a person with very limited or no vision around. Yes, fair enough. I can see the criteria has got a lot stricter. You need to know 5 routes and such like, regarding that. You need to have 5 routes that you regularly do, so you're giving the dog stimulation. It's not the same old route every day up to the co-op and back, which I can totally understand. And but the thing is, to be told that you are not entitled to a guide dog because you have a visual impairment that is too bad, I find pretty hard to get my head around. I have met a very nice person who, and if you want to go and check them out, you're more than welcome to. Pathfinder Dogs. Now, Pathfinder Dogs have turned around and said to me, if I want a guide dog in the future, which I possibly will do, there is no reason why I cannot go for a guide dog. The lady there, Anne, she's fantastic. And she has turned around to me and said she's going to give me a swift kick up the backside, because literally she said I need to get out. And I really don't know how Anne does this. Anne has no sight. She's got 2 full sides. She has no sight whatsoever. but she just, I don't know how she does it. She just gets around so easy and makes it look easy. That's wrong. But she gets around, and I don't know how. I honestly don't know how. And she's really, really switched on. Me, I just seem to zone out when it comes to sort of like, as I say, being out and knowing where I am and stuff like that. I seem to zone out, and it seems to sort of like I suddenly walk sort of like 100 yards down the road, and I think, where the heck am I? You know, because I've not paid any attention to that last 100 yards. And I truly think that is possibly down to me being my disability, whether it's to do with the CMV and whatever's gone on. Because I know nowadays with the scans when babies are in the womb are so good, they can actually see the CMV, and if it's affecting a baby, which is incredible. Because obviously back in the day when I was a baby, I don't even know if they offered scans. They probably did, but they were so black and white and grainy, you probably could only just about make the baby out. So they never knew anything about my CMV. And I class myself as one of the lucky ones, one of the really, really lucky ones, because I say there are a lot of babies out there, and I'm on a group on Facebook that are to do with CMV. And when you see some of the stories on there, it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. So I class myself as one of the very, very lucky ones that have got this horrible virus, or had this horrible virus. Again, see, I don't know a lot about it because there isn't a lot of information out there about it. I know it can re-flare up, but that's normally in people that are immune deficiency. Their immune system is pretty poor, and it can affect them, especially people like leukemia patients can get it, and then it can be really, really, devastating. And babies can get it as well. So it's not just strictly us babies, or babies that got it or get it. It can hit you in adulthood as well. There are people that I on another group as well that I watch, and they've actually they've had flare-ups of CMV, and there's been nothing completely wrong with them. So it's crazy. But again, I don't know anything much. I don't know a great deal about CMV. I only know the way how it's affected me, and little snippets of information that I found out in the past. And I didn't even, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know the name of my eye condition till about 1995, 1996, because I sort of was in denial that I actually had it. And then once it started getting too bad, I thought, well, I'm going to go to the doctors and find out a bit more about this. Because obviously the internet was starting to come online then at night. Well, it was online, but it was, more information out there. So again, 95, 96, something like that, we typed in the name, cyclomegalovirus, and up it come. But again, not a lot of information out there. So if anybody's got any more information, they wish to share, it would be absolutely fantastic to find out more about this horrible virus. And it's surprising. I've had this nearly 50 years. And the thing that really gets me, there's still no vaccine for it. There is no vaccine for it. And I can't believe, that's the case, because I'm sure possibly they could test to see if people have had, mothers that have had CMV in the past. So when they get pregnant, the CMV is, it's already there, so it's dormant. The mother's immune system has killed it. But I think, there needs to be a vaccine out there for women that haven't had CMV. So when they do get pregnant, they can actually, deal with this horrible virus. But yeah, any more questions?
Yep, we've got two questions. The first one is, how will you find traveling on aircraft and around airports?
Now this is an interesting one, because Ryan's moving to the Philippines. So me and my wife are going to obviously go out to the Philippines at some point. So on this channel, we'll be blogging about how we're getting out there, the treatment that we're going to get in the airports and on the airplanes and stuff like that, because there's a lot of barriers in the way. One of them, which is when we're on the airplane going into the Philippines, you need to fill what's it called, Ryan?
You've got a declaration form. Basically, it's what you're bringing along, health records, things like that. You've got to fill out information. It's very simple, very short. But like, for example, passport number, where you're staying, things like that.
How long are you going to be there?
Yeah. For slight immigration control.
Yeah. So now, okay, that's fine, but obviously that's not going to be in a format that we can fill in, unfortunately. So
of course, like a really thin piece of paper when you sit on the plane.
So we're obviously going to have to find a way around that. Well, obviously we're going to ask one of the stewardesses or stewards to actually help us with that. That's the way around that. So you have to find ways around things. Now the interesting one is I'm going to book we'll see how well this goes. I've heard lots of disaster stories, but lots of good stories. And the story goes that when you book your flights, you can book a guided assistance. Now, that's for people who are vision impaired or any disability. Even if you're in a wheelchair, you know, you can get help to the gate. Well, obviously, ours differs because of the vision impairment. Ours will differ a little bit more to someone that's in a wheelchair, because we will need literally taking from the desk to obviously put our suitcases through, and then obviously through passport control onto the aeroplane. Even silly things like food, when the food comes around, knowing what the food is and you're going to like it. So that's going to be interesting because obviously, as you probably are aware, I have got a food channel as well. Yeah, it's got to plug it. So Eyes for Food is out there as well. Now, what we're going to do is obviously food that we'll be trying in the Philippines, even if we try anything in the airport, we'll all be documenting it and it'll all be going up on the channel. So watch this space. That'll be an interesting one. So how well that's going to go, I really don't know. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this channel up, because obviously we are going to be traveling out to the Philippines. And hopefully, who knows where we may end up, you know, flying to. See, we'll have to
do like different regular flights and stuff. Different airline companies, like when we're out there, do a couple of different companies and stuff, and do it then.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. So, you know, and we're going to use as much of the assistances that we can. Obviously, even if Ryan's with us, we're going to try the airports out and see how well and how far we get. Could be interesting. We could be sat in an airport for a week because we missed our flight. Yeah. So we'll wait and see. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to be an interesting one. I must admit, I'm not looking forward to well, I am looking forward. I love flying, but I am not looking forward to the lengths of the flight. The first one from Newcastle, because that's where we'll be going, out to Amsterdam. And then from Amsterdam to wherever, it could be Bangkok.
What happens is it goes, for example, here in Amsterdam to Manila, but you'll have a transfer or a slight stop for refueling, things like that. So it's normally about a 16, 17-hour flight overall.
Yeah. So we'll be flying from Amsterdam to wherever it could. Where you've been?
I went to, the last one I did was Hong Kong.
Hong
Kong.
Kong.
Next one, if successful, will be Bangkok.
So it could be Bangkok. So that would be quite
interesting. Story on our story on YouTube.
Yeah. So look that one up as well if you haven't done our story. Yeah, too right. So you'll be able to see him when Ryan gets out to the Philippines. He'll be blogging out there what he's doing day to day and such forth, because he intends exploring the Philippines, and when he can, he intends to explore further afield around Asia and see what's out there as well. So that's quite interesting. Ryan's got a little baby boy as well, Alan Jackson. And if you want to see how he's getting on and such forth, Ryan's obviously can't do a lot from the UK at the moment, but when he gets out there, he's going to be doing a lot more videos on his progression through life and how he, you know, what's happening in his life. Yep. So yeah, give that a look up. That'd be really good.
So question 2 was, how does being blind affect your mental health?
Now that's a hard one, because there's a lot of frustrations with blindness, because before my sight really got bad, I was an extremely independent person. You know, I would go out wandering around, doing my own thing, no problem at all. Although I did have very poor vision, I still had what I would class as what they call useful vision where I could go out and I could go and do things that, you know, would help my mental health. But in the last, say, 20 to 15 years, certainly in the last 15 to 10 years, it's got really, really, really bad. And it's made life quite hard. Mental health wise, frustration, a letter comes through the door. You can't just open that letter up and read it. Although there are gadgets and there are apps now on your phone that you can actually point the app at the phone, not the app, point the phone at the piece of paper, take a picture of it, and it will read it back to you. That is very hit and miss. That is extremely hit and miss. Now, I've got one on my phone that it works okay, but it's not the greatest. Now, Sarah's got one of hers, Bixby. I think it's called Bixby Vision. Now, that is only available to, now get this, I paid under £300 for my phone. It's a Samsung, and it's a cheap version. It's a cheap Samsung. So it's got a basic software on it, and it doesn't have Bixby Vision on there at all. Now, Sarah paid a little bit more for hers, well, quite a bit more for hers, and she's got Bixby Vision on it. Now, that is good. That really does work. You can point at tins, you can point at anything that's got writing on it, and it will scan it very quickly and then relay it back. And it's quite accurate. Obviously, these things are never going to be perfect at the moment, but it works really, really well. So that's quite cool as well. There's also another thing you can get on your phone if you are visually impaired, and I've never used it. I have had it on my phone, but I've never used it. And a friend of mine, he's actually signed up to this, and it's called Be My Eyes. Now that's really cool, because what that is, if you've got a letter and what happens is that person or something, a name place, anywhere that you are, say for instance you're out and you need to find a line of shops and you can't find anything, you go onto the app and you basically click onto it, and then you can open it up, and then you can go onto the part where you can ask someone if they could be your eyes. And what it does, it dials someone anywhere in the world, and as long as they're English speaking, you can get obviously different languages from different parts of the world, I believe. So what you do is you then it dials someone, they then answer the phone, you don't know who it is, and that you say to them, right, I'm looking for this shop, can you see it? And they'll tell you to use your phone, because it opens a camera up, and you basically point the camera at the shops, and it'll say, right, the shop is blah blah blah, you can go off to the left, walk down there, and you'll literally be my eyes. And I know people that have used it and they've had brilliant success with it, absolutely brilliant. Now where that would stand, I'm not sure. With reading documents out, like personal letters and stuff like that, that might be a bit different. You may, thinking about it, if you've got a really, really good trusted family member or a friend that you could do, then it might be worth getting them to do it via Messenger or WhatsApp. Or many of the other platforms that are out there, you could say, look, I've got a letter, could you please help me read it for me? If you feel happy enough doing that. So that's another way of doing it as well. There's many, many ways around it. People ask me if I watch a lot of television. No, I don't. Well, not watch that. See, that's another thing. That's an interesting thing, because people say to me they say, Alan, did you see that? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Why are you saying sorry? Because I just said, did you see? It's a phrase. If you say that to someone who's visually impaired, seriously, don't worry. It's a phrase. It's just what we say. It's just part of the English language. It's just what we use. It's the words, terminological phrases that we use. So stop worrying, please. I've had many, many people say to me, last night, did you see them shooting stars? And they instantly regret it. Please don't. Please don't regret anything. Just say it. At the end of the day, a lot of people have said to me, when they're in my company and stuff like that, they've already turned around and said to me, they said, I've had people, and Ryan will vouch for this, I've actually had people stand in front of me waving their hand in front of my face, and I've not noticed at all. And they then turn around and go, you are really blind, aren't you? Yeah, yes, I am. You honestly can't see a finger? No. And I said, why make sure? I just waved my hand in front of your face, you didn't even flinch. Well, no, because I can't see it. But they say, how do you get on? How do you cope and stuff like that? Well, you just do, don't you? It's what you do in life. You just get on with things, and you do. But so seriously, if you do come across these phrases that you might say, and you suddenly don't regret anything, don't regret saying it, because honestly, we, as visually impaired people, it just goes over the top of our heads. It's just phrases that are used throughout daily life, and we just, it's just one of those things. So, and at the times I've had people send me messages, days later saying, I'm really sorry that I said so and so. And I go, look, honestly, don't need to worry about it. It's just, we expect you, to speak and use phrases that are in everyday use. Any more questions?
What do you do in your spare time? Do you have any hobbies?
Yes, I did. I did have one hobby, which was amateur radio. But there was quite a few incidences that happened on there. Maybe I was a cause of I don't know. But I've walked away from amateur radio. I've left that in the past. That is, and I've literally come to the decision that I won't be doing that. Amateur radio, if anybody's not aware, it's not CB, it's not citizen band radio. It's very similar, but you need to sit an exam and you get a license. And then you can operate on bands, and lots of different bands that you can use. Bands are basically lots of frequencies that are in certain parts of the light spectrum, if you like, getting technical now. Ooh. And I used to use amateur radio, but I say it's not for me anymore. I've had enough. I've moved on from there. Other things is I'm into music, not in the way that a lot of people think I'm into music. They think all blind people can play an instrument. I certainly can't play an instrument. The only thing I can play is a trumpet, and that's my nose. I seriously cannot play an instrument. I have tried in the past, although I've not been very successful. But again, it's down to this attention span. I have an attention span of 0, literally. I think goldfish have a bigger attention span than I do. Unless someone can sit down with me and really explain it in a simple, easy way, then I might be able to grasp it. I'd love to learn the guitar. I've always wanted to do that, and that's one of my biggest regrets, is never sitting down and really learning an instrument. Piano, I love the sound of a piano. That's incredible. But I'm into listening to music, a lot of music. I do love lots of music. I have a pretty serious sound system, house, so I can't play it very loud at all, which is a shame. Hopefully the future one day will bring me a house where I'm in, and I can live in there quite happily and deafen myself. But yeah, so I'm into music. I'm very much into music, and I still talk to friends, not on amateur radio anymore, but we use another mode called Zello, and it's basically an internet-based. It's like radio. It's very much like radio, but I use that to talk to friends on occasions, and thoroughly enjoy that. And it's very good because they use what they call rooms, and they're secure. So you can go into this room, and you've only got a few people, 10, 15, 20 people in there, so you can sit there and chat and have conversations, which is really good. And you can talk about all kinds of things, and that's really cool. So that's one of the hobbies. And the other one is, seriously, I'm not just saying this, YouTubing. I'm absolutely loving YouTube. I've got so much to say, and Simon will tell you I can talk for England, as you probably gathered right now. I can find anything to talk about, and I can make a meal out of it, literally. So that's what I sat here. Me, Ryan, Sarah sat here one day and said, right, we're going to start a YouTube channel. What should we do? Food is endless. You can blog about food all day long. There's just so much that you can do, whether you want to go down the weird and wacky wonderful ways of goodness knows what, bizarre food, or whether you just want to stick to the mundane foods, or well, not mundane, but the normal foods, and talk about normal foods and stuff like that. We do. I've done a couple of unboxings with Ryan, unboxing some it's from a company called So Sweet, and of course you can imagine it's all sweets and drinks and stuff like that, and they're really, really good. So go back and have a look at those, and you'll find that excuse my hiccups, they're really, really cool. We've just done an unboxing this afternoon, which will be coming up on the food channel in a little while, in the next week or so. So that's really, really cool. But so YouTubing, and obviously when we go out to the Philippines and stuff like that, that'll be another interest, going out there and experience a different culture. I honestly, my passport ran out 11 years ago, and about 10 years ago, and I honestly believed I'd never ever in my lifetime get another passport. So to be actually, well, I've applied and I've got my passport now. To actually think that I'll be flying 7,000 miles around the world to another place is absolutely, it's buzzing. And I'm just wished what we're going through at the moment with this dreadful virus was out the way, because one, Ryan can get out to the Philippines, but two, we can get out to see our grandson, but also just the experience of flying and going to a warmer country. As I speak today, what are we, the 8th of February 2021, we actually have snow on the ground here at the moment, and it's cold. It's well below freezing. It's about -1 at the moment out there, with a wind chill factor of -6, so it's pretty chilly. So I'm quite looking forward to going out to the Philippines and experiencing at night 28 degrees. That'll be nice. Get the old bones warm again. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. Any more questions?
Nothing as yet.
Okay, people, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here, and I'm going to try and do another one next Saturday. So hopefully we might be able to get a few more people on board. If not, I'll sit here and we'll talk about other bits and pieces that I can talk about. I have got a few things coming up on this channel regarding aids that help vision impaired people. So I did one with the tape measure. Now that was quite interesting. I literally threw myself in at the deep end with that one because I couldn't remember how the talking tape measure worked. It's been tried and tested, battered and damaged, but it still works just. So that was quite interesting.
We're going to revisit that one.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I can always revisit that one. And
it's
snowing heavy out there now. You can hear it on the windows. Also, I've got one with games that board games, chess, frustration, and things like that, playing cards, dominoes. So I explain a little bit about that. That'll be coming up on the channel in a few days' time. And then I've got the liquid level indicators to do, talking scales, how we use talking scales, and that dreaded outside talking thermometer. Now, that's been going off in the background. I've been able to hear because it's stuck in between 0, just below freezing, then just above, then just below again.
Also, there's a talking clock downstairs, isn't there?
There's a talking clock as well. Yeah.
And you can probably do a live session on that.
Yeah. I've even got my watch on my wrist at the moment. I've actually switched it off, but I've actually got my watch on my wrist is actually, it talks to me as well. I have turned it off because obviously, notifications come through and stuff like that. So maybe one day I'll show you that as well, how I cope with my watch. And that's really, really quite cool. And that links to my phone. So any messages that come through on my phone come through on my watch as well. So if you're out in an area where it's a bit risky, and you don't want to take your phone out of your pocket, your watch can then talk to you and tell you if you've missed a call or you've got a message come through. So you don't have to go dragging your phone out of your pocket. So for people that are not visually impaired, I think they're absolutely ideal, these things, absolutely ideal. Okay, and then we'll be looking at buying some more gadgets from the RNIB and a company called Cobalt. We will be picking up some items from them and testing them out as well. So, okay, thank you everybody that's been watching and stuck with me and listened to me waffling. And all those that are going to watch this, be safe, and we'll hopefully see you in a few days' time next Saturday. It's Monday today, so we'll see you next Saturday. So thanks for watching once again. Take care, have a good week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.